What I'm about to tell you is still hard for me to fully understand. It's not the kind of thing you can just shrug off. In fact, I've never heard of anything quite like it happening to anyone I know. I worked the night shift at a small 24-hour gas station about half an hour from my place. Not exactly my dream job, but in small rural towns you don't get a lot of options. The pay is just enough to keep the lights on, and most nights are nothing worth talking about. The night it happened started like any other. A few late-night customers, a delivery truck, a handful of locals getting cigarettes or snacks. By the time my shift ended, the air outside had turned damp and cold, the kind that seeps into your bones. I locked up, got in my old pickup, and started the drive home. The route back is mostly narrow, twisting roads cutting between cornfields and stretches of dark woodland. It's always quiet, hardly any traffic, just the hum of the engine and the sound of tires on cracked asphalt. I usually enjoy it. It gives me a chance to let my mind wander and shake off the hours I've just spent under harsh fluorescent lights. But that night, it felt different. The fog rolled in so thick, it was like the road was sinking into it. I'd driven through fog before, but never this dense. Even with my high beams on, the light just scattered back at me, turning the windshield into a glowing sheet of white. I had to slow to a crawl, barely able to see more than a few meters ahead. About 15 minutes into the drive, I noticed something strange. Off to my left, just beyond the edge of the road, a dim blue glow flickered in and out of the fog. At first, I thought it might be a porch light from some distant farmhouse, but no matter how far I drove, it stayed exactly the same distance from me, matching my pace like it was tethered to my truck. It wasn't steady. It would pulse faintly, disappear for a second, then reappear. I couldn't tell how far away it really was. The fog made it impossible to judge distance, like I was looking at something through water. The longer it stayed with me, the more uneasy I felt. I decided to slow down, thinking maybe it was some kind of moving vehicle, and I'd been misjudging its position. But when I dropped my speed almost to a stop, the light did the same, still keeping its perfect spot, still pulsing. Then, it changed. The pale blue became sharper, colder, almost electric. Each flicker seemed stronger than the last, like whatever it was charging up. That's when I decided I didn't want to be anywhere near it. I went to accelerate, but the engine didn't respond. It was completely silent. The key was still in the ignition, but the truck was dead, and I swear I never turned it off. I tried starting it again, but the starter wouldn't even click. In the corner of my eye, the blue glow kept getting brighter, spilling across the fog like ink and water. That's when my phone went dark, too. Battery dead, even though I had checked it earlier. It had been at 40%. The glow swelled until it was almost blinding, forcing me to shield my eyes. No sound, just that cold light pouring through the fog, pressing in on me. Then, as suddenly as it had started, it collapsed into nothing. The road was empty. The fog was still thick, but there was no sign of the light anymore. My truck started on the first try, like nothing had ever been wrong. I drove the rest of the way home without looking anywhere but straight ahead. Since then, I've told the story to friends, co-workers, even strangers, hoping someone might have an explanation. I've heard everything: swamp gas, faulty wiring, drones, but nothing that explains why my truck and my phone both died at the same time, and why that cold blue glow seemed to be waiting for me in the fog. This happened about 3 years ago. I'm a cross-country bus driver. I've been doing this long enough that endless hours of empty road don't really faze me anymore. That night, I was on the final stretch of a multi-day route. just trying to get the last passengers to their stop so I could finally clock out. The road I was taking cut through a stretch of forest that doesn't see much life after dark. No streetlights, no houses, no gas stations, just two narrow lanes winding through black timber and the occasional clearing where you can see the moon. It's the kind of drive that makes you feel like the rest of the world has gone quiet, and you're the only one moving. I was maybe 90 minutes away from the final terminal when I noticed something unusual. In the driver's side mirror, far behind, a pair of headlights appeared between the trees. At first I figured it was just another car catching up, but the longer I drove, the stranger it seemed. They didn't close the distance or fall back. They just stayed there, too far to read the make, but always perfectly in my mirror. No matter if I sped up or slowed down, those lights matched me exactly. I passed through several long, straight stretches where it would have been easy to overtake me, but the car never tried. It was like whoever was driving didn't care about the road at all. They only cared about keeping that exact distance from my bus. I told myself to ignore it. After all, my job was to keep the bus moving and the passengers safe, not get caught up in whatever weird game someone wanted to play on a deserted road. Still, every few minutes, I'd catch myself checking that mirror, and every time, those lights were there. Around 1:30 a.m., I pulled into a small lay-by I knew from previous trips. It wasn't even a real rest stop, just an asphalt patch with a wooden bench and a single old street lamp that buzzed more than it glowed. I figured I'd stretch my legs, let the mystery driver pass, and get on with it. But when I looked in the mirror as I was parking, I saw those same headlights swing into the lay-by too, parking way back, just at the edge of where the light from the lamp ended. The moment I saw that, any curiosity I had turned into irritation. I climbed down from the bus and started walking toward the car, ready to demand some answers. But as soon as I took a few steps in their direction, the headlights flared, the engine revved, and they shot backward, spinning onto the main road before disappearing into the dark, like they'd never been there. Part of me was glad to see them go. Another part couldn't stop thinking about how deliberate it had all felt, as if they had been waiting for something. I went to the vending machine by the bench, but it was completely empty. A waste of time. By then, I was exhausted, and didn't feel like driving any further just yet. The passengers were all asleep, so I decided to take a short break and nap in the driver's seat. I checked that all the luggage compartments were locked, closed up the entry door, and leaned my seat back. The forest was silent except for the faint rustle of leaves. I remember thinking there was no way that car would come back. It would be impossible to find this spot again in the middle of nowhere. I must have fallen asleep in minutes. But I'm a light sleeper. Years of overnight routes have trained me to wake at the slightest sound. That's probably the only reason I caught it. A faint scrape, like shoes sliding over gravel. Keeping still, I slowly tilted my head toward the side window and lifted the corner of the curtain. Two people stood near the rear luggage hatch, crouched low, both wearing dark hooded jackets. One of them was fiddling with the lock while the other kept watch, shining a small pen light in short flashes toward the trees. I couldn't see faces, but I could see their intent. Then, one of them reached into a backpack and pulled out a crowbar. That was enough. I slammed my palm down on the horn, unleashing the deep bellow that shook the whole bus. They froze, then bolted into the darkness between the trees. Seconds later, a familiar pair of headlights roared into view. That same car from earlier. No lights on this time, just a quick, silent turn before vanishing again. By the time I stepped off the bus, It was over. I called the local sheriff's office, mostly just to report it. When a unit finally arrived, we checked the hatch together. Sure enough, the metal was freshly scratched and bent. The officer told me thefts like this had been happening more often on that highway than people realized. A shadow car spots a target, follows until the driver stops, and then the crew moves in. The other vehicle's job is to circle back once the cargo's been breached. It still gives me chills knowing they had followed me for who knows how long. And the only thing that stopped them was me waking up at the right moment.